Ladies and gentlemen, pleased to be back with you this afternoon to talk about circular economy. We are going to start with auction houses and then talk about retail to end with an amazing talk regarding purpose-driven companies. And of course, Fabien Lupo with Stanislas Curses will do the official closing talk. So to start this great afternoon, I'm pleased to invite on stage Astrid Wendland from Miss Tweed. Please. Next on the stage, Tirath from General Manager Luxury at eBay. Fabien CHICHA, CEO of Iconeek. Last but not least, Aurel Bacs from Phillips in association with Bacs and Russo. The floor is yours.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And the microphone works. Isn't it great when technology works?
Immediately, right?
So, I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to welcome you. We have 3 champions of auction houses and 3 very different champions. One is quite new, one is quite veteran, one is quite technology driven. So that's going to make for an interesting talk, I think. I'd like just to briefly introduce our speakers today. Tirath, who's Managing Director for Luxury at eBay. And we have to say that luxury is one of the most buoyant businesses, right, at eBay.
Correct.
And I have here Fabien CHICHA, who's the CEO of Iconeek, an auction house specialized in watches that was launched 8 years ago. So he's our young auctioneer.
I'm a baby boomer.
Baby boomer. And then we have our veteran, Aurel Bacs, who's really, he calls himself, we have to say, the Indiana Jones. Yeah. I read in the Figaro an article, you can't hide from Miss Tweed, you know that. No, but it's great. He is the Indiana Jones because he goes hunting for treasures and he puts them on his coat and then he says, look what I've got. And then he does an auction.
Not quite, but thanks for the introduction.
So Aurel Bacs is the CEO of Phillips, and he's probably one of the greatest specialists in watches I've ever come across. I know that I bother him a lot from Miss Tweed. I say, Aurel, what's happening in secondhand? So he's really an expert. So I would like to maybe start with Tirath, because I think eBay is a very interesting story. You are an old company. You're probably one of the oldest internet online retailers. I mean, when was eBay launched again?
The 90s.
Exactly.
Oh, we're 27 years old.
So it's probably
95.
one of the first major Silicon Valley online retailer ever. Yeah. And you've made quite a big push in luxury, which is a very wise and good thing to do. And I think I would like you to tell us a bit about how do you see the future evolving? Because, and that is going to interest you. Basically, we have online and we have traditional auction houses. And how do you see the future evolving versus online, the world of eBay, and traditional? What are your thoughts about this?
Absolutely, no, great question. Actually, him and I were still talking about it, how we think like the traditional ones are getting closer this way, we're getting closer that way, and starting to converge in the middle. And when I look at involvement in the future, I look at who's the next generation of these consumers that are going to buy in an auction format, right? And again, we keep coming back to a topic of Gen Z that's being spoken everywhere. How are they going to interact? Where are they going to go to get their data before they even go to an auction, and maybe for like a watch auction or a handbag auction or jewelry auction? So we do see that, I believe, the technology will start playing a role, but there's still this element of expertise that needs to be there and come within technology as well and join forces to really evolve. And there's a couple trends going on, right? I mean, Gen Z is really driving and going to mobile as their first storefront, so that's a huge avenue.
Gen Z, remind us, what are we talking about here?
It's a younger generation. I think they're the ones who are right now coming into the next wealth class. They're, I would say, predominantly in the early
their age, what,
20s right
20s,
now.
early 20s?
Early 20s is like where the majority are right now.
And that's you would say, the bulk of your customer base for
That's
luxury?
the bulk of our faster growing customer base right now, right?
On eBay.
On eBay. We're heavily investing into that. Remember, eBay has been in the auction business for a long time, right? About 18+% of our business in the watches world is coming from auction right now. We have about 80,000 listings on auction, right? And we recently, I remember seeing a Cosmograph Daytona that sold for about $56,000 in auction. So eBay, we play a role in the auction space where it's more of that mass space, right? The items that are going from like 5,000 to 50,000, not the super elite, or the great job this gentleman did yesterday when I saw a live auction in person for the first time. eBay really plays a role in that like mass auction. But what we're also finding Gen Z is they love social media and the way of doing live shopping through auction. So
that's where the innovation comes in.
A lot of innovation.
What is live shopping? Tell us, because
live shopping is
we don't know what it is.
Right, live shopping, as many of you might know, has taken off aggressively to almost a $50 billion sales industry in the Asian markets, predominantly China. It is growing really fast in the US. It's a way of doing shopping through social media live. So you have an expert who's talking about products live. You have everyone doing social comments, maybe giving smiley faces and hearts and asking questions, and they're able to do live shopping by explaining a product right there. One of the things we're launching also is like an auction format in live shopping. So you'll be able to hold live auction through a social media format and have a lot of engaging fun in that process.
So wait, so is it an influencer who's doing?
It could be.
Is it a brand ambassador, or is it a specialized auctioneer who knows about
all of the above? And we're seeing different formats. The one we did 2 weeks ago in handbags, some really beautiful handbags. We just launched this in luxury just 2 weeks ago after launching in collectibles. We had 26,000 viewers at one time in social media over a 45-minute period. The average person stayed on for 15 minutes each, and people were going in and out based on different products that they were waiting for. So we see next year we're going all in on this format, both live shopping, live auctions. But to answer your question, we can have experts like this gentleman and others be part of that. We can have other experts in the watch world or jewelry world part of that. Influencers be part of it. Our sellers such as Watchbox be part of that. We're actually holding an event with Watchbox coming up in the fourth quarter in live auction. So I see a lot of the innovations like this in the future really taking off in how it creates a future auction format. And that's where Gen Z is starting to resonate. But definitely, I don't think it's taking away from traditional auctions. I think that's where the convergence will happen.
So do you agree, Aurel? I'd like you to maybe bounce back on this because, what do you think about what Tirath has just said?
We've had this first informal conversation right there when we shook hands. And first of all, the converging thing, I totally agree. And it's not just technology versus expertise. I see media houses becoming retailers.
And retailers becoming media.
And dealers becoming auction houses. And tech companies becoming specialists. Everybody sees a piece of the grass greener on the other side of the fence and says, in order to be really successful, this is what we need. So, whereas they have the technology, now they're getting the expertise. And auction houses, not just Phillips, any, are investing heavily in getting the technology. Now, I'm definitely not a specialist on the youngest generations, and as you all know, I'm really not sort of technology savvy. What is interesting is that luxury as such is a market that has elements of the experience, the aspirational aspect, emotions, status, that you can just not explain rationally. And this is why we see products...
The world of... You're selling emotions, right?
Yeah, it is. I think that's quite fair to say. Whether it's a dinner, whether it's a holiday, whether it's...
A watch.
A watch, the way we dress, the handbags. And this emotion can be either lived and celebrated in a brick and mortar, traditional experience. And I would really wonder if the next generation doesn't like to go into a boutique, a nice jewelry shop. It can be celebrated in the context of an event. I mean, tonight we have a charity gala where a Patek Philippe will be sold for children action. And I'm sure that if that watch was on eBay or at Phillips at auction, it wouldn't make the same price as it will tonight because of the emotional surroundings.
Agree.
And so forth and so forth. Now, we try all to capture all these emotions and bring them together. It's happening very fast. At what point can we really replicate and will be all the same? I don't think we will ever. Yeah. Nor do we want.
No, and maybe, you know, people who go to an auction has to remain an auction. It shouldn't be turned into live shopping. You see, even though one could argue it is a bit live shopping.
It seems that auction houses invented live shopping. I just didn't know.
No, but because live shopping is in China, you have something called the Red Book. It all started with that, and you have ambassadors who are basically saying, "Look at this product; it's amazing. I tried it," and then you have people who ask questions and all that. An auction is, here is this amazing product. Here's the history. This is unique. These are the arguments why you should all throw money at it, and que le meilleur gagne, should the best win, right? At eBay, you're also doing this.
Correct.
Right. So you see, there is but I think you want to differentiate, and that's also what I want to ask maybe Iconeek is, when you're a newcomer coming to the market, so how do you differentiate yourself? Because that market is getting pretty crowded. You've got, you know, the tech specialists here, you have the great history connoisseur of watches here. So how do you conquer your market?
I'm a Swiss and local company, the only one here.
Fabien CHICHA, CEO of Iconeek.
I'm not the size of eBay, and I'm not as important as Phillips. However, I used to work with Aurel, and we gain new clients, we gain a lot of interest by the quality of our expertise. And
you mean the curating, the choice?
Yes, curating, the choice of the pieces, we pay a lot attention to detail, like Aurel does at another level. And that's important because people that come to our auction, they look also for a safe way to get a collectible piece. They want to speak to the specialist. They want that you treat their object as much with care as they keep them during years. And they are waiting for that. And that is the main point. At Iconeek, we are a very small team. We are only 3. But we work a lot to give that quality to the mass public.
And what gave you the idea to start Iconeek?
Because when we first started Iconeek 8 years ago, we were only an online boutique with a very reduced commission. And I think you always come back to your first love. And then
what is your first love?
Auctions.
Ah, I see.
I started a long time ago in auctions. And then, as I was not as important as the famous auction house here in Geneva, we decided to make a zero commission for seller condition, which is quite attractive, but still with a quality of description, of photography, and etc., of big names. And it works. And
what are the names that you're selling? Rolex, or are they some small watchmakers that you like?
Yes. No snobism at Iconeek, from 1,000 to, I think the most impressive one we sold, it was around 200,000. But we will have more to come.
What was the model?
It was a Patek. And we work like that, but it takes time, and we make all our efforts, and we try to make a nice selection also of the item.
So tell me, Tirath, how do you see? You see, there's a lot of moving parts in the luxury world, and auction houses are very good at feeling the pulse of demand of consumers. And I think we would like people here to hear your thoughts about that, and Aurel and you. What do you think, how do you see the market evolving in the next 12 months? What is your feeling? And my question has to do with what type of products, what are people's concerns, and how are you, you're planning your year ahead. So how do you see things moving?
Well, absolutely. We just went through a very aggressive planning cycle for 2023, so really psyched about that, and the 2 years beyond too. We just did 3 years of planning. But no, what we're really excited about, and you brought this up, is the power of data. Right, to really understand what consumers want or what's in people's closets. One thing we're doing at eBay aggressively is understanding through data. We know through the millions of sellers we have what else they might have in their home. The consumers, what else are the watches or other, and we know that 92% of the inventory out there in the world right now is not in showcases. It's with people or collectors. And majority of them are just waiting to make sure they get the right trust and transparent process to resell that, right? So they then use different mediums like a Phillips or an eBay to help them come to that market. Now for us, what we do is we also have a very strong demand market across the globe, right? We're now strong in the UK and European markets and scaling with 135 million active global buyers and behavioral data we have. We understand what are things selling for. Pricing. We have a pricing technology tool that tells you about trades happening over time in the market across, let's use watches as an example, or what a current Rolex Daytona has gone for last year versus this year. And based on that, we're able to make predictive trends. And so we help users use that data to then price it correctly and get sell-through. And eBay, on average, is taking about...
So give me an example of how a customer benefits from your data.
They benefit because they know they get pricing transparency, right? A lot of customers don't understand what their market pricing might be, right? And especially the mass market consumers do not understand that. And they're like, okay, I want to sell this piece. I'll come to a platform like eBay. What can I sell for? And then the second part is, am I going to sell to a trusted buyer or am I going to get cheated, right? That's really important. And for eBay, as we went out on a journey about 2.5 years ago to solve the trust problem, we had the pricing piece secured because we had that transparent data, and the power of data is one of our core areas. But we launched Authenticity Guarantee, where we partnered up with some of the great watch experts across the globe. As a result, watches are going through them before it ever gets to the end buyer to make sure it's authentic, make sure it's in the same condition and everything's coming with it. But the seller also knows when that piece goes through, their money is safe and that they are getting paid through the eBay platform. And we're just going to take an 8 to 10% commission on that, given that we don't have too many processing costs. So as we get into next year, our number one goal and a big theme at eBay is transparency and traceability. So
transparency in what? In price? So to say, or are you saying this? Let's say whatever Patek. Well, let's not take a Patek, but let's say FP Journe.
Sure.
Model. Okay, sorry, just
for a change.
Yeah, no. But,
there's a lot of them over there, by the way.
Let's say Ashmoser and Company then, or De Béthune.
Sure. There's a lot of them too over there.
So. Or Karivuti smaller, even smaller. Okay. And you take that watch and you tell the customer you can sell that watch between X and Y based on past auctions.
So we share.
You see, I'm just wondering, is this also your competitive advantage? Like Phillips would also say, right? Phillips will say, this watch we estimate based on data that.
No, you do it with the technology.
We do it with the technology, but
we do it with the brain.
Yes.
No. But it doesn't mean that I'm more intelligent. We don't have those billion-dollar algorithms they have.
But they're a Silicon Valley company.
That's what I'm saying.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No. It's really interesting.
No, the only thing I wanted to add is both are right methods. What we're saying is we will not tell the customer what the price is for. We show them what it's trading at. It is up to them to price it, right? Because we don't want to control pricing in that way. We want the consumer to price it. Of course, if they're pricing it too high, they're not going to get sell-through. And so on the traceability front, just want to add, and that one thing we're taking that to the next level is over time, we're now getting valuable data to understand where that watch has been in the market. market? How is it trading in the market? So we're allowed to bring more transparency to the market through what we call our NFT blockchain play to understand the traceability of goods. So when we are selling things to auction in the future, NFTs can play a big role in that as well.
Yeah, we're going to talk about NFTs,
but
but I want to hear Aurel, and then I want to hear you also about pricing, because that's also an art, the art of pricing, the art of finding the delicate balance between demand, supply, where do these, curves cross, and you said we do it with the mind. Tell me a bit more about this.
So what is Fabien? Did
No,
you look at
you
me
first, and
or
then,
Fabien?
Yeah,
okay.
and then Fabien.
Go on.
The good thing is, I think the three of us are not standing on each other's feet because we're really not even trying to go after each other's businesses.
There's room for everybody,
which means we can be quite balanced and fair. I would be quite sure that 80% of the watches that we sold over the weekend, you wouldn't have the pricing tool because they were in some form or shape unique pieces. Hence, the only way to value, assess them, is with the brain. The old-fashioned way how specialists in the art field, how do you value a Picasso of such and such type? I think even the most intelligent pricing tool cannot do that. Why? You need to know billionaire 1 in China, billionaire 2 in the Middle East against billionaire C in the United States. He has it already. His wife doesn't like yellow. His war is already full. Hence, it's worth $50 million. That's the reality out there.
Now that is magic, isn't it?
We have a colleague whom we call our algorithm, because that client intelligence is very important. Who's looking for that unique piece? Who's missing that piece for the collection? Now,
know your customer.
The average price point over the weekend at Phillips was north of 200,000. The average price point on your platform
It's
is
going to be, let's say, 15,000.
15, and yours?
12.
12. So this is, and we have only about 1,500 watches per year.
Yeah.
For 1,500
And
watches,
Iconeek
we can
does
still
you do
use
4 auctions a year, right?
we can
See?
still
Yes,
use that human algorithm.
We might sell that in a day.
That's fascinating.
We, by definition, do not sell brand new watches. I mean, the minute you come to an auction house, it isn't brand new, unless, like in the event of Patek Philippe bringing us a charity piece, or Lange & Söhne like yesterday, or Zenith, then it's brand new. The minute it's pre-owned, you can assess it in 10 different ways. To one person, it is badly scratched. To the other person, it is light scratches that can be buffered out, like can be polished out. There is no two opinion the same. Therefore, it's again in our field not the algorithm that will decide if it's scratched or not, but me in conversation with the client, whom I know for 10 years, and he knows me for 10 years. And he will say, if Aurel says it's good for me, I trust him. But I know where his threshold is in terms of quality, patina, wear, history, and it's a bespoke service. It's a very different size and different approach to luxury.
And really, don't you agree? There is room for everybody.
It is. It's very complementary.
And I wanted to make the compliment to Fabien, because why does Fabien run a good business? Is because people don't go to a company, they go to him. He's a watchmaker. He has 25 years of experience in the auction industry. Hence, I trust him. They've never heard of me. They don't like eBay. They go to him. Which is why in that field of luxury, you can have a living if you have the reputation, the credibility, the know-how, the material, the authentication.
So do you have a little address book about...
I just want to respond to Aurel.
Yeah, but that's about
Thank you very much for the compliment. I'm your young Jedi.
You make me feel old up here.
Jones, Jedi.
And I would like to add something that, of course, we need the technology. Of course, we need the expertise. But one point that is as much important as these 2 points is the heart, because if you are speaking with your heart, from the gentlemen that come with a watch and to the one that will buy this watch, and if you make something vibrate inside him, of course you can fetch such high price that Aurel did this week. because you know how to speak to the seller, you know how to speak to the seller, and it's all about luxury. We don't, at the end of the day, we don't need all these goods, but we are looking for something special to find our identity. We are looking, when we buy something vintage, something extremely rare, we are looking, in fact, for a piece of our history, of our past, a piece of identity, a museum quality pieces. And so we had to add the art, which is very important. And the art is the center of our business for each of us.
So do you have a little book? It says, Anthony Morton, born in such year, has 4 mistresses. One lives there, the other likes this, and you know everything about the private life of all your customers. And I was of course being a bit provocative. Who loves his wife and gives her every year something quite original. So this is also part of knowing your customer, just like the jewelers were 100 years ago.
Forgive me to interrupt, but this is the job on the Rue du Rhône and the Champs-Élysées and New Bond Street in London of every salesperson at Gucci and Prada and Dior and Cartier and...
But it's also you, because you know that
the real estate agents need to know whose kids are moving out, whose kids are moving in. Come on.
But what I'd like to add is, like, the great thing he said, all our businesses really do complement each other really well, right? Because we are going after the mass market, right? Not that super ultra high end. We do have that ultra high end consumer. We have people who are buying $3+ million a year in watches on eBay. We see that all the time. We know we've sold $250,000 Pateks. We've seen that multiple times as well. And what we've invested aggressively in is the expertise side. You know, 3 years ago when I joined eBay, that was missing. Now we have partnered up and we have a watchmaker that we work with and watch expert shop with hundreds of years of combined experience, and they work with the major brands. They're an official service center of the brands, and we've rolled that across the globe. So now at eBay, we're bringing that expertise to life that was missing with the technology, and we believe combining that together, we've seen our strong increase in just the order values through our platform, and then now in the live auction platform. So I think there's a lot of great complementary here to the businesses, and we serve different segments, right? The same customer that will spend $2 million with him may be spending $75,000 with us because that Audemars Piguet they found it on eBay and they bought it from us. So we may share customers, at the same time we have a different set of customers.
So you've talked about authentication, but maybe I'd like you 3 to tell us, not a whole discourse on it, but just briefly, how do you authenticate? And let's stick to watches since it's the common denominator, because handbags is a science, but it's...
I have a very simple answer for that. When I started in the business, I was in a workshop with a 40 years old experienced watchmaker, and he said to me, look, Fabien, the dial is reprinted or refreshed.
The dial, right? Yeah.
Dial, yes. I said, wow, ooh, wow. How you do this? Can you learn me? How you know that? And say, yeah, it's very, very simple. Yeah. Yes, very simple. You need 25 years experience.
So it's the discerning eye, the eye for detail. And you see, because it's, again, an interesting discussion of humans versus machines. Because you've got machines who, for example, Origin, and people who are taking photos, and you've got algorithms, and then you've got NFTs, and you've got machines, technology.
Correct.
And then you've got the instinct, the eye, the experience, these human factors that machines cannot yet replicate. Aurel, what are your thoughts about authentication?
That I agree with what you just said. I mean, if anything, a lawyer, a dentist could be replaced by computers and robots. I mean, if computers can do everything better than human beings, then we just sit at home and wait to be fed. I agree with Fabien, experience. Today, I'm promised to be presented afterwards this biometric tool.
I had the same promise.
Okay, Alexander is here. He will do it. He promised it. I would today bet, and probably for many years to come, that technology cannot replace what we call experience, the eye, when it comes to authenticating, and not just the authenticity, but the degree of originality in terms of restoration, polishing, cleaning.
And the sound, the tick.
Which is another interesting thing now, again, between old-fashioned and very high-tech. As far as my clients go, and maybe I have the wrong clients, they want to touch the watch. They want to view the watch. They want to try on the watch. They want to hear the watch. They want to smell the watch. And I mean smell, and Fabien is a watchmaker. When you open a vintage watch, you have a smell in a vintage watch inside. And that
like
adds
books, right?
like books, like furniture, like leather couches, I'm sure, old-timers. And I want to know how this experience, this physical, tactile experience, will either be no longer requested by future generations, or how technology companies bring this element, this experience, these emotions, Fabien spoke about the heart, into the picture. Because buying a commodity is one thing, an experience on a collectible item, a luxury item, is, I believe, at least for me and my generation, hugely important.
So today you trust more
Human beings,
human
totally.
being than technology?
Human beings whom I know.
Yes.
Whom I know.
No, I agree with him. And
Wait, sorry, Fabien
Oh, no
wants
worries.
to just bounce on one
Yeah,
thing.
yes, I experienced that over my last auction, that even if you propose to your customer a Skype, a Zoom, it's really not the same.
Face to face.
Yes, they really want to face the specialist, have a good time. It's also a good moment to be here in Geneva with all the collectors, and it's part of the game. And you want to have a good time with a good watch, a good moment with a specialist, meet your friend, oh, I get this, I buy this, I sold this, and that is the main point. It's all about a human relation. And even behind the technology, people want the proximity. And in a world that there is machine everywhere, no, at the end of the day, we want to speak to trained people, experienced people, have a good time, and maybe, and we learn from each other. Even to do the estimates, a good expert is not someone that knows everything about everything. No, a good expert is someone who is able to find the answers, even with his colleagues.
Sorry, you wanted to say?
No, I agree with both of them. Machines cannot do true authentication, right? You need the human element, right? And that's very, very important. And that's the reason we have invested in these global authentication centers, where I've lost count how many we have now. And the most recent one, when I talk about expertise, we have teamed up with the Gemological Institute of America for jewelry. Who better than the most renowned lab in the world that has seen everything? They have authenticated and certified the biggest pink diamonds in the world that have sold at auctions.
Wow.
We have created an eBay section within their core lab in California, and all the fine jewelry is now going through them, and they're using the most world-renowned lab equipment and gemologists and experts to authenticate, including most recently, we launched Cartier, Bulgari, Tiffany & Company jewelry that's all going through them now. And that's a game-changing relationship, right? Because GI has only worked on loose stones. We now are the only place you can get GI certificates with eBay with finished jewelry, right? And so for eBay, investing into expertise, and goes back to their point, humans, is very critical. And this is where we see future growth coming from as well.
Great. We have a few minutes for questions. I'd really like to open the floor to questions. We have 2-3 questions max. Yep.
Yeah, I have a question too. Like some recent or upcoming, like Paul Allen is selling his billion-dollar art collection. I thought, like, when I read this, why now, when everything was red with stock market and like inflation? Like, can you explain this out of your view a little bit?
I mean, I'm not going to answer, and you just looked at me. Maybe it was no, you looked at me.
It's a question.
But $1 billion.
So first of all, it isn't I who's selling Paul Allen's amazing, mind-boggling art collection, the late Paul Allen's. I do not know about the art market in particular, other than what I read, like you, in the press, and what I understand is that it is a collection composed of trophies. It's the best in each segment. Phillips had this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, here in Geneva at La Reserve, an auction. The combined low estimate was $20 million. We sold for $45 million.
Such a good business you're in, isn't it?
We have 100% sold. That means every watch was eventually deemed worthy of being bought, worthy of being bid up to double, triple, quadruple the estimate. You ask, why in this red moment? Inflation is still record high.
Yeah. And that is that what customers talk a lot about? Inflation?
No, you interrupted me.
No, but because no, sorry.
I was going to give you the list of reasons why it's a good moment,
Yes,
but I will also be fair and say why it's not a good moment. So interests are high, massive uncertainties ahead of us, whether it's geopolitical tensions. We have elections, I think, as we speak, in the US midterm elections. We have a cold winter ahead of us that to us Europeans is definitely an issue. I would fully understand if in the Middle East, if you live in Dubai, heating your house is maybe not such a concern for you. I come back to this. Buying a luxury item, whether it's a Chanel handbag or a great independent watch, is not an investment the way you buy a Nestle share or a bank share, or it's about, I'm worth it, I need it, I want to spoil myself, I want to have fun with this. It can intellectually or emotionally stimulate you. But before you talk investment, it's always your heart that comes. So clearly yesterday and the day before, there was plenty of heart, plenty of passion. The money's out there, I can guarantee you that. It's unbelievable how much money's out there. Are the times less certain than 12 months ago? For absolutely sure. But I think the collectible market, the luxury market, is faring well this autumn.
Yep. Just want to add to that. Talking about the economic uncertainty next year, if you look at, go back 100 years, look at all the periods of recession, economic situations, and what the luxury industry has done during those times, they have grown an average of 4 to 6% even in those times. The wealthy is still there. The upper middle class is also getting wealthier. This is a time period we believe in the next year, people are expecting S&P to potentially even drop 20 points, and by June next year, it's where opportunities get created, right? And so I think there's still going to be a lot of money in the sidelines that are going to go into investments, and now opportunistic investments for the long term.
Are you as optimistic?
Yes, I think there is no recession when you love something. Meaning that you save more money, or you sell some of your stuff in order to invest more. But when you love something, you are ready to spend even more than what you earn. So collectors are the best ambassador of the Reluxury model, and no, there will still be some collectors for important items, of course.
Thank you. Do you have, that's it? Ah, that's it, folks. Well, thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for your questions. Thank you.
That was fun.
Thank you very much for joining us for this talk. We will continue this omni-channel journey talking about retail in 10 minutes. So just come back just after the break. Thank you very much.